Hey, what's going on YouTube? Rylan here, back in the garage gym, and I've got a really good quick tech tip for you guys today for anybody that has one of these FT-5000s version 1s and you're interested in adding about 4 more inches of height here. Stay tuned because I'm going to give you the rundown on how to do that step by step. All right, welcome back. And if you're like me, you have one of the version 1 FT-5000s. You saw recently Rep came out with a new version, version 2, and it has some better features to it. One of the better features is it has more height, especially with where your cable comes out of the pulley here. So they've added height to it. They've added more adjustment holes to the stack, so you can, more places to put your cables. And they've done a few other things, made the footprint a little bit smaller. It's 2 inches actually narrower. I prefer the wider width of the FT-5000, but again, the version 2 has some really awesome features to it. I'm going to show you how we can get the same height out of this version 1 that the version 2 has from Rep. So the V2 has about 74.5 inches up to the top pulley at its highest, basically highest usable position. So if you measure that here, this guy, and it's at where the cable comes out, I'm about 74 inches there, 74.25. So that's pretty good. Remember, this is the version 1. So how did I get more height out of this? And I did that by swapping this pulley assembly right here from basically being in the down position. I moved it into the up position. So now the best way to do that, the first time I went to swap it, I actually removed all the pulleys and took it all apart, and you don't have to do that. The fastest way to do it is, first of all, let's talk about your tools that you're going to need. So you're going to need a good set of pliers or cutters to cut the cable, and that's something that I'm going to show you in a picture here as I'm talking about the tooling. You should have something like that around, but that's the best way to cut the cable, is using a heavy-duty set of cutters, or they can call them pliers. That's one thing you're going to need for sure. You're going to need 2 Allen wrenches, a 4mm and a 10mm Allen wrench, and also a adjustable wrench or a 19mm wrench. Most people aren't going to have a 19mm wrench, I doubt it, but an adjustable, a small adjustable will work just fine for that. And the first step is, what you're going to want to do is disconnect the actual cable end to the cable itself. And the easiest way to do that is to first of all, pull your pin out on your stack, pull it out a little ways, say about here where you can work on it, then put your pin back in your stack, and now that's going to give you that excess cable to work with as you need to push this ball back, and then this rubber piece here will push back, and then that will expose. Now, one more tip. When you're trying to pull and do stuff with this, just use the handles that it came with. The plastic ones work really well for this. You can use anything, but for me, I just use the original handles. So now you have something to hold on to. You're not trying to hold on to the carabiner when you're trying to pull that rubber cover back. And it's tight, and it will go. So there, I've got that exposed, and you can just slide it all the way back. Underneath there, you're going to have 3 Allen, they're not bolts, they're like Allen screws, they're set screws. And if you assembled your FT-5000, you remember you tighten those up to the cable, and that's what holds the cable in place. So go ahead, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing and actually do it, but I'll just talk you through it. So loosen all your set screws. Then here's another tip. Go back to your weight stack, and again, you can leave it out or whatever, but when you're trying to when you're trying to pull the cable out of the keeper itself, even though you got all the Allen set screws loosened off and backed off all the way, you can even take them out if you want to, it will be very tight. The cable's going to have memory in there, so it's going to be stuck in there. To get it off, you're going to have to, again, use your handle, but set your weight stack all the way down to the heaviest position. And then that way, when you go to yank on this and give it a couple good little yanks and pull on it, your cable will come loose of this retainer. So that's your next step. Get that off. And now you have your bare cable again. You'll want to pull it out so you can work on it. So pull it out, set your stack, and now you've got your cable here. The next step here is you're going to want to just pull your cable out and through these pulleys. And it just comes out. It's easy. Pull it out through there. So now you've got your cable hanging loose. Your keeper is set aside for now. And the next step is to flip your, we call it pulley assembly, from lower to the upper position. And behind it is an Allen head bolt right here. That's going to be your 10 millimeter. And then your 19 millimeter nut on the bottom. Inside that bolt, there's two bushings, basically brass bushings in there. So when you pull it apart, just be aware the bushings will fall out. If you're not careful, it's not a big deal. Take the bolt out, take your pulley housing, flip it over, then reinstall the bolt, the two bushings, and the nut. Remember, don't tighten the nut all the way down. It has to be loose so that this can move. Now, you've got your new housing flipped over. The next step is slide your cable back through the two pulleys, right through the middle, and then down. And then remember, you've got your weight stack positioned out so you can easily work on the cable. Now, you're going to have to shorten the cable. Remember, we've raised the height of this about 4 inches. So cut between 3 and 4 inches of cable off. I started at 3 inches for my first cut, and it was a little bit loose, so I went ahead and cut another inch. It's going to depend on your particular cable. I don't know. They're all probably a little bit slightly different, but again, start at 3 inches. And then you can reassemble it. You don't have to torque everything super tight. And then you can see how it's going to sit back. This ball is going to sit back inside this cradle here. You want it to be snug, but not too tight. If it's too tight, it's going to basically cause your pin to bind when you're trying to put your pin in your weight stack. So start with 3 inches and see how it goes. And then again, if it's still really loose and this ball is not all the way in there, and I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm going to pull the stack out. And let that all the way down. And you can see the ball is just resting in there. It slides nicely. It's got some play to move. Now, if it's too tight or too loose, but it's just a little bit off, you have a tensioner adjustment on the inside cable here where it goes up to your trolley basically, and you can adjust the cable there. You can tighten or loosen it, and then that's going to affect your tension as well. So to recap that, cut about 3 inches off the cable. Maybe you need another inch after you've done it. Slide the cable all the way back through, just like you did when you put this thing together. Tighten your 3 set screws that are 4 millimeter set screws, and then slide your rubber cover back down over it. And yeah, actually I had a little bit too tight when I was showing you that because I had the cover back a little bit. So you can see it's actually much looser now. And that works good. You can make it tighter if you want to, but I don't think there's any reason to really worry about that. So that is the process in a nutshell. It took me about 15 minutes to do both sides. I had all the tools ready available. Like I said, the first time I did it on one side, I had all these pulleys taken apart, and I did a bunch of stuff with that. You don't need to do that, so don't worry about taking that apart. But since we've done it, I've really liked the mod. Again, 4 inches doesn't seem like a lot, but it adds some nice height, and if you're taller, I'm 6'2", it's nice to have that little extra added height on some of the movements. For me, I don't feel like you've sacrificed anything down low. You're going to lose that on the bottom end because the way we flip this over, it's now sitting 4 inches higher off the ground. To me, I don't see any negative to that at all. To me, it's just all benefits to have it as a taller pulley location. So yeah, that covers it. I wanted to share this tip with you guys. I've got a lot more tips like this coming. I think this is going to be something I'm going to really kind of try to push out to the channel more. And you know, if there's something that you guys have a question about or you're trying to figure out, put it in the comments. Let me know what you want to see, and I'll try my best to help you guys out. And thank you to everybody that's been subscribing, following the channel, all that stuff. It's been a great, great year. I've gotten lots of good feedback from everyone. And again, follow us on Instagram. I do respond there. If you need to DM me, hit me up on Instagram. Thanks again. See you on the next one.